was Alex Gaunt, and what was his effect on the Dulleses?
Gaunt was a British intelligence officer who came to work in the United States. And Allan Dulles, as a young man, got to meet him. Allan Dulles was fascinated by him. He had had this diffuse interest in the inner workings of people's minds, but I don't think he really understood what intelligence was as a business, because the United States in those days didn't have a peacetime intelligence service. But Gaunt, to him, was just the epitome of this fascinating swashbuckler who operated behind the scenes. And I think Allan Dulles wanted to be like him. Allan Dulles also had a favorite book. He liked this book, Kim, by Rudyard Kipling, which is sort of a book for young adults. It's essentially about a young kid who grows up to realize that being a secret agent for the British is the real way to serve the cause of humanity. Allan loved this book, and it was even on his bed table when he died. It's one of these childish fantasies, like the James Bond books that he loved, that allowed him to believe there's never going to be any bad effect to covert action, and in fact, it's good for everybody.
I want to read you a paragraph you wrote that one hardly knows what to think. It says, around the same time, Ali was informed by British officers that a young Czech woman he was dating, who worked with him at the American legation and had access to his code room, was passing information to Austrian agents. They had decided, the British officers had decided, she must be liquidated, and he understood it as a necessity of wartime counter-espionage. One night he took her to dinner, and then, instead of squiring her home, delivered her to two British agents who were waiting in front of the 14th century Nideg church. She was never heard from again. What kind of a person does that?
Quite a way to end a date.
Yeah, boy, forever.
Yeah, Allan was one tough guy. I spin this forward to the period in the 1950s when he was running the CIA. One of his major projects was sending exile groups of fighters into places like Soviet Georgia, Soviet Latvia, Albania, to try to stir up trouble. Every single agent that he sent was immediately captured and killed. This never bothered him. And when he was asked about it, he shrugged and said, well, at least we're getting experience for the next war. So he sent people off to die without any real qualms, and I think without even insisting that there be some real benefit, some real possible positive outcome to it. There was never any prospect that 6 kids landing on the beach in Albania were going to overthrow the Albanian government. But just the fact that they would be there, even if they only lasted a couple of hours, he thought might send a message to the communists. So that was worth sacrificing lives for. And then multiply that times the lives that have been lost in places like Guatemala over the last 50 years. And you get into the tens, even hundreds of thousands of deaths for which he can be held indirectly responsible.
You know, one wishes to think, and we've been acculturated, I believe, to think that before people are sent on these kinds of missions, there's a great deal of thinking, soul searching, and so forth that goes on about the missions and the possibilities of success and how to avoid the deaths of the people on the mission. Essentially, you're saying that's a lot of baloney. He just sent them off. That's it.
That's right. That was really, there was none of that serious thinking. Now, we now realize that one of the reasons that soldiers were waiting to pick up every one of those insurgents or rebels or would-be fomenters of dissent was that the chief representative of British intelligence to the CIA, Kim Philby, was actually working for the Russians. And he knew all these plans, and he would just send them the note telling them what beach to be waiting on when these kids landed. That happened over and over, but it never led Allan Dulles to start to think maybe something was wrong.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, a leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.